Heyo, 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 everybody. I am starting this baby a little bit early just because I want to. Um, I hope you are all having a wonderful time today or tonight or in the morning, whatever time it is for you. Um, Welcome, and please remember to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't yet, and consider becoming a member. Hey, Marie. Hey, you know what, Marie? I noticed that the other day you came into chat and it actually had, put up your 4 months as a member, and I missed it when it went by. So thank you very much for being here. And I'm sorry I missed saying hello to you the other day. So as you guys know or may not know, I have followed a couple of cases pretty closely since they broke open. And one of them is the Lori Vallow case. And her trial is coming up. It is scheduled to start on April. Hello, Sunny. Welcome. It's scheduled to start next week or on April 3rd. And in the lead up to that, I just want to give people some background on the case. And I went through the victims and the circumstances, kind of the timeline last week. And, I get the sense that a lot of people that follow me actually know enough about this case to where I don't have to get too rudimentary about it. So I decided this time to look up the interviews that took place right after the incident happened, or like after the kids were reported missing, because I think it's really interesting knowing what we know now about the people who are interviewed and the circumstances surrounding the case and things that have come out in discovery and the way that Chad and Lori have kind of broken up, in a sense, it seems. That it'd be interesting to go back and look at some of those interviews through the lens of what we know now. So I'm going to show a couple of those here. Today's a not going on camera day because I just couldn't get around to making myself look presentable. So I am not going to be going on camera today, but I would really appreciate it if there's any issues with the audio while I'm playing this, if you can't hear me when I'm making, thanks, Sunny. If you can't hear me while I'm talking through some of the audio, let me know and I'll make adjustments and stuff like that. It's impossible for me to hear how things are coming out on your side. It can be frustrating for creators, but yeah. So I think I'll just go ahead and get right into it. This interview is an interview that Melanie Gibb did with Nate Eaton from East Idaho News. And this interview was quite a get. I mean, it really shows the journalism of Nate Eaton and East Idaho News and their, close coverage of this case. And Melanie Gibb is a friend, really the friend of Lori's, who was really with her right up until, it seems, right up until the kids were declared missing, because Melanie Gibb is the friend who Chad Daybell called and said, "Hey, the police are going to call you. Can you please tell them that JJ is with you?" And she's like, "Wait, you want to lie for me?" But, it's not like she came clean immediately. It didn't seem like it. It seemed like she just ignored the police's calls, and it was up to the police to then go back with a search warrant and look for, trying to look for JJ. And when they went back with the search warrant to look for JJ, Chad and Lori had fled and they were gone. And then Nate Eaton caught up to them in Hawaii, and right as they were getting served with papers, and chased them down and did, some great journalism there. So anyway, I'm going to start playing this interview and, just kind of observing through it. And I'd love to hear what you guys think as well as you're listening. So here we go.
I've been waiting 5 months to talk to you, and you've been hard to find.
I know.
Would it be fair to say that you've been in hiding?
Yes.
Why?
When you realize that the people that you know and you're close to and love have been involved in something that has to do with kidnapping and people dying, you start to think, oh my gosh, are they going to come after me? Like, everything closes in.
So that hits me right there, where she's like, all I can think about is the walls are closing in on me and they're going to start coming after me now. So I'm going to go into hiding, which, you could read two different ways. You could read that as guilt, or you could read that as just self-preservation. But I find it interesting that her answer isn't because I want the truth to come out. I mean, maybe it'll, I don't remember her saying that. Maybe she says this coming up. I remember watching this whole interview and being like, well, it's good that she's doing this interview, but it feels very selfish. Hey, Mark Pash, good to see you.
And you start to think about your own safety, and you start to think about what really happened, and could this really be true? I had all kinds of fears.
I think she was in complete and utter denial. I mean, she was a hardcore follower of this cult. I mean, she was believing in these dark spirits and things.
What the media would say about me, if they would say it the way I want to say it, like I'm saying it now, I wasn't ready.
So why are you ready today?
Because I faced all the fears, and then I decided that the truth was more important than what I wanted. And I needed to do it for those that have passed on, that justice may be served. I think it's fair to Charles and JJ and Tammy and Tylee that someone is standing up for what happened.
It's interesting that she brings Charles into that because she helped Lori. She basically enabled Lori in getting out of a psych hold that I think could have thwarted Charles's death. So I hope she realizes her. I hope she's kind of looked back and realized her role in that. Mark, I did do a live last week where I gave the background on the case, so I would encourage you to go and check out that live. But this is the case where Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell are accused of killing Lori's two children and Chad Daybell's wife. So, and it's going to trial next week.
Happened to them, and I care. I do care for them, and I care for the families that are involved.
And is that your goal in talking today?
My goal is to speak to the things that have gone on, and also to speak to many that believe their story of some of the things we're going to talk about zombies, to being a part of the 144,000, to multiple probations. These things do need to be discussed to those that do follow.
So what she's talking about is that Chad and Lori had this belief that was built off of the Latter-day Saints church, the Mormon church. It is not the Mormon church belief. So this has nothing, no problem, Mark. There's no shade here to the LDS church, but what Chad and Lori did, and especially Chad, was develop this belief system where the end of the world, he wrote entire fiction series of novels based on the end of the world coming and preparing for it. And there's a part of their scripture talking about the 144,000 that need to be saved, or will be left on the earth. And when Jesus comes, and that Lori and Chad took it upon themselves to decide who gets to be saved and who doesn't, based on their ideas of godliness and not godliness. And interestingly, it was the people around Chad. I mean, around Chad and Lori that were hampering their ability to be together and be married together. Those are the people who end up dying. It's Lori's husband, it's Chad's wife, and it's Lori's 2 kids. Her older daughter, Tylee, was, it appears, really not going for it. She was 16 years old when she went missing, and she was pushing back on these religious beliefs. And JJ was just a little innocent special needs child who that they determined was a zombie, and so he needed to go.
All of those teachings. And so I have a lot of perspective on that.
Would it be fair to say you know Chad and Lori better than anybody?
Probably.
Scary.
And you know their beliefs.
Yep.
You know their activities.
So she's, she distances herself from being, she's distancing herself from all the things that happen as a result of these beliefs. Hey, Justice Jane, good to see you. She's distancing herself from the outcome of these beliefs, but wholeheartedly saying, yep, I probably know them more than a lot of people in this situation. And it's just interesting to me that how you can enable such evil and not recognize it until too late, really, until it's too late.
You know more about this story probably than anybody else other than them.
Yeah, I think so.
You told me the other day on the phone that someone told you you needed to get an attorney. And what was your response when they said, have you gotten an attorney?
Well, how I responded to you is why do I need an attorney if I'm telling the truth? God is on my side.
I don't think
so. Let's go back a few years and talk about Chad Daybell.
Okay.
How did you meet Chad?
The first time I met him, he was at a conference or an event speaking about his last days, dreams and visions. And I just walked up to him and introduced myself to him.
Was that in Rexburg?
I think the first time I met him might have been at a camp up in...
I'm going to speed this up so it doesn't go
Ogden, I think. Somewhere in that area.
In northern Utah.
Northern Utah.
Were you impressed by what he had said there at the conference? Is that why you wanted to talk to him, or was it just a casual, good job?
I wanted to meet him because I thought his dreams were interesting. And when I met him, I thought he was a really nice guy. And anytime I saw him was at an event.
At what point did you become closer than just seeing him at events or, hearing him speak?
So when Lori and him met, that's when I started to get to know him a little bit more.
Tell me how you met Lori.
So I was teaching a class at church one evening, and she was there, and she introduced me.
Really, it was Melanie who introduced them to each other. They were so she's not taking ownership of that.
Herself to me.
And what was that encounter like?
She was very excited to hear the things I was teaching. And so when I went out to the hallway, she came up to me and introduced herself. And she told me about a lot of personal experiences that she had that were spiritual in nature. And we just hit it off.
So from there, a friendship developed.
Yep.
And what was that relationship like?
Wow.
In the beginning,
yeah.
What was it like?
So we talked often about our experiences that we had spiritually. And we talked about some of our trials that we've overcome. And we talked a lot about the second coming as well and how excited we are for the things that we've been studying and learning. And so just a lot of interest in that area. Mm-hmm. And we just talked about life and being a mom and, JJ being a handful, being autistic and what that was like. And, we just talked about our life.
Do you remember what year that was, Melanie, when you met her?
Yeah, that was 2018, about October.
October of 2018.
Mm-hmm.
So you saw JJ, you saw Tylee, you knew that Absolutely. She was raising the kids.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And at what point did she meet Chad? Because you knew Chad and you knew Lori, but they were separate relationships.
Correct. So I met her first. Well, I met him, within years, but didn't know him super close or anything like that. So then I meet her, and then her and I decided that we're going to go to an event in St. George. And so we drove down together, and then he was selling his books and speaking. And so that's when they got to meet. So that was probably October, November.
She really waves off, her knowledge of Chad. I mean, she was really hey, butterfly kisses. She was really a follower of Chad's. She was one of there's a group called a Vallow that is basically based on preparing for the second coming and, being prepared. Right. And Chad was an influencer, a very, very strong influencer in that group. And Melanie was part of it. And then she met Lori, and brought Lori along to this thing where Chad was speaking. So I just feel like she's doing a lot of distancing of her affiliation with this whole group and what they were doing.
Somewhere in that time frame of the same year.
2018.
Mhm.
So did you introduce them?
I don't know if I did or she just went up to the table. I can't recall.
And was there anything unusual or magical or different about when they
I
met?
can't
So we
recall.
were there for 2 or 3 days, and I think he was there for 2 days. And she talked to him a lot about his books, and so she asked a lot of questions. And she was very interested in what he thought, and she was interested in what she knew. And so they just started talking about these different beliefs that generally are not something you learn in church. And so they started kind of develop that connection right there. Mhm.
And were you kind of ingrained with all of it right there as they're talking about these things?
I am going in and out, and I'm not sure exactly all the things they're saying.
I see.
Yeah.
But it wasn't anything unusual. It would be if you found somebody at the church that had similar beliefs and you were talking about things, or was it a step further?
It was a step further. It was discussing the things that were not something you would talk at church. It was something that you would talk closely with not a lot of people listening.
Did you know that Chad had a wife and 5 kids?
And by that time, Lori had already started reading all of she had already started reading Chad's book. So Lori was kind of a fangirl of Chad before she met him. She was recommending his books to other people.
Kids in Rexburg?
Mhm.
And did Lori know that?
Yes.
And was Tammy ever with Chad?
No.
She didn't come with him to the events?
No.
And did his children?
Not that I know of.
Okay. So where did their relationship go from there?
So after spending much time talking those 2 days,
Thanks,
we went
Mark.
back to Arizona, and he came down to Arizona when it was the next event, which was in November sometime. And so many people, so some of my friends, some of Lori's friends, and then Chad, all got to stay in her house. It was one of the larger houses she had, so she had plenty of room throughout her house. And so they spent some time talking, and he'd spend some time talking to us as well.
Everybody stayed in this house.
That's right.
Chad, Lori, you. Was Charles there?
No, he went out of town.
He was out of town.
Mhm.
Did you have much interaction with Charles?
A little bit.
And what?
So this, now we know that while this kind of meet and greet was going on in Lori's house that she had with her husband, that Chad and Lori started their affair really at that time. They spent most of their time with each other. They were being at least starting to be intimate with each other during that time.
What was that like?
So when I did interact, it was just like the first time I came over, I believe we did a barbecue, and he was cooking barbecue. That seemed something that he was good at, according to both of them. And there was swimming in the pool with the kids, and he seemed like just kind of a nice guy, just happy to see us, happy to meet us. I don't know. It was an enjoyable conversation. He was talking a little bit about his conversion to the church, and he seemed to be pretty excited about it.
How would you describe his and Lori's marriage?
There seemed to be some arguing often when I would see them together. So he was trying to do things to help her and please her, and she seemed like she was struggling to be happy by that. Like she seemed a little often frustrated with him. They had something going on that I didn't quite understand, but there seemed to be a lot of contention between the two of them.
Did you ever see him lose his temper or become irate or angry with Lori?
I think Lori was very clear about her issues with Charles by that time. Yeah.
Or the kids?
Nope.
Did you ever see her become upset or angry with Charles?
Like vocally, I could see her, being upset, and he
vented a
was
lot,
frustrated
I'm
back, so
sure.
he might have had a little bit of that stress in his voice when you argue. So I would say just that arguing kind of a upset voice,
Yeah.
And Lori clearly is a master deflector and triangulator. She has one of these, personalities that will, draw people in with her victimization, by her husband or by whoever's around her. So I can imagine that was really what their conversations were about, how Lori was so unhappy with Charles and whatever he was doing or she thought he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
So he wasn't there at the house the day that you guys were all there for that conference.
Right.
The conference happens, and what happens from there with Chad and Lori?
They just spent time talking about things. They went on a walk together or jog in the morning together. I do recall that. All the things they talked about, it's like so personal. It's so hard to share with the world. You know what I mean?
So it was very personal details.
Some of it, he was teaching us about some of his understandings about multiple lives and things of that nature. But at that point, he had already shared with her when they met in St. George that they had been married multiple times before. So that was established when they first met.
And the idea of multiple lives, my understanding, is totally against the LDS church. So he was definitely, I used the word bastardized last time. He totally bastardized the ideas of the LDS church.
Chad told Lori when they first met that they had been married before
Not in this, right now in this earth life, but in multiple earth lives.
in a previous life.
Mm-hmm.
And did Lori have an issue with that?
No, she's
By the way, it is a very common manipulation by predators to say, you know what? I think we were married in a previous life. That is something my father told me to justify the things that he did to me as an infant up until I was 12 years old. Okay. That is a very common. So in case you hear somebody telling somebody else, we were married in a previous life and their relationship is not, shouldn't be savory. Realize that is a very common way that predators go after people.
she seemed to understand that teaching already, that she had learned already through podcasts. So it wasn't something that was
Foreign.
Right.
So Chad's teaching this group about multiple lives. Is that what it means? Multiple probations? Does that mean previous life?
That's right.
So he's talking about multiple probations. He and Lori have been married before.
That's right.
And you all are discussing this. And is that when you decided to form a group? Is that?
No, there wasn't any group. It was just him talking to people individually. He wasn't even trying to express it like, hey, let's start a group. Nothing of that language. So, a lot of people have different ideas about, is this a
But they did. It may not have happened at that time, but they did definitely form a group, and he had a whole name for it and everything.
cult? It is not a cult. And so we can talk about that a little bit later. But
Yeah.
I would just say from the beginning, what it felt like to me at least is he was just talking to individuals, and he was very kind of private. And so he would talk to her, and then she would kind of share with us. So he wouldn't get too overly involved talking to us. She would just more share what he would teach her to us.
And by the way, cult leaders are never going to come up to you and say, "Hey, you want to join my cult?" No, it's up to the individual involved to understand what a cult does and how they operate, and to figure out whether they're in a cult, because the cult leader is never going to say this is a cult unless they're playing some sort of word game with people and manipulate them into saying, oh yeah, well, this is a cult, but we're a great cult. We're the good kind of cult.
And was she the only person that he was doing this with?
No.
There were others.
Mhm.
Other women?
Men and women. I knew of it already. Yeah.
And do you know, had he told other women that he had been married to them in previous probations?
I'm not sure about that.
There's even audio from Melanie Gibb's home. Okay. Melanie Gibb, I believe, is the one who provided the audio. I'm not sure about that, but there's audio of Lori in Melanie Gibb's home giving testimony about how she aimed to kill the husband she had before Charles, that she was in a terrible place, and she looked up all the ways in the Bible to justify killing her ex-husband, because she was accusing her ex-husband of sexually abusing Tylee.
But definitely he had told Lori that.
Right.
What was it like to witness this? I mean, did it seem like a normal relationship between the two of them, or did you think this might be going a little too far?
It was definitely different. The idea was definitely a new concept. I'm a very open person, so I don't necessarily think it's not true. And before I just listened to what they said. Did I 100% believe any of it ever? No, not 100%. No. So when you get introduced to something, you kind of just, let it marinate. And so I just listened to them talk about it. I mean, it was not something that I knew anything about until they shared it with me. So.
And not something that you had heard at church or in Sunday school or in a manual anywhere?
Never. Yeah, it does not represent our church's teachings at all.
So they're going on jogs together. He's talking about these multiple probations. The conference ends. And what happens from there?
So he goes back home, and I just know that they're communicating on the phone every single day. I do know that. She would let me know. Yeah.
I mean,
did you ever think she might be falling in love with him?
Well, yeah, I knew. They pretty much hit it off.
Did you wonder, hold on, she's married and he's married too, and they both have kids? Was that a thought you ever expressed to Lori?
Well, I did actually offer the idea. I'm like, why don't you just go ahead and get a divorce? And they were told that they weren't allowed to.
They weren't allowed to?
Yeah.
Because of church teachings? Or
no.
So I remember her saying that before, Melanie saying this before, I'm wondering what led up to Melanie saying, why don't you just get a divorce? Was Lori saying things like, I'm planning I'm planning an ambush on my current husband and people are going to die? Or it could have been, giving the benefit of the doubt, it could have been just one of those normal conversations. But how did it get up to Melanie saying, why don't you just get a divorce? What is the alternative to that they were talking about? I've always wondered that.
Something that they received from through the other side of the veil, how they would speak about it, and said, no, we're not allowed to do that.
So they received like a spiritual prompting or a revelation, or
However he got his revelation.
however he got it.
Yeah.
Said, don't get a divorce.
Right, he wasn't allowed to, actually.
Was not allowed to get a divorce.
That's correct.
You said that it wasn't a group or a cult, but do you think it became that over time?
I guess it depends on what you believe those words mean. A lot of us don't understand what those words mean. I would say it's teachings, that you have the basic tenets of the gospel of Jesus Christ that we do as Christians.
At this point, she's still very much in denial that it's a cult.
That's right. And then you have this doctrine that comes in that's not affiliated with any Christianity that I've ever read of. And it's not doctrine that comes from Jesus Christ. It comes from the adversary. And so that comes in, and it's enticing, because how many people do you hear even in the world that want to know about their future, right? Or they want to know their fortune or something like that. And so it's enticing. So you keep going more and more into it. And then you get to more information, and it gets you to ask questions that you shouldn't be asking. And then you learn these kind of things. And so you can call that what you want. I mean, I didn't see him.
And that's how cult leaders with nefarious
forming
plans draw people in, is by saying, these are just ideas.
Groups per se. Preparing people is not a cult. They're people, very nice people, that have an event they hold, and they have different speakers. He just happened to be one of them, and they had no idea that he had these belief systems, nor did he know anything, nor did they know anything.
But he had written entire books about this.
About Chad and Lori's relationship. They had no idea.
Yeah, so that was going on separate from the mainstream church and preparing of people. It was this little thing.
Yeah.
Would you say that you got sucked in?
I even read these books, you guys. They're insane.
Into it?
Yeah.
Or brainwashed?
I don't know if the brainwash word is, I would say sucked into it. I don't know if you would call it a brainwash or not.
How often would you meet? Would you actually meet
to being
together? Or was this more done on the phone or on email or Facebook?
It wasn't anything that was planned. So I just spent a lot of time with Lori. So we spent every day together for a period of time, actually, especially when she left Charles that first time. It seemed like it was every day. It was close to every day, a lot of time together for at least a few months, and then it kind of spread out a little bit. I talked to her a lot personally because she was with me a lot, and he talked to her, but I didn't talk to him very often, just occasionally.
So you call her, and because you were with her so much, you knew what they were talking about.
Right, yeah, exactly.
How did you meet Alex and Zulema and Melanie?
I met Alex for the first time at Lori's house.
Alex is Lori's brother, and Zulema is Alex's wife, but they had just been married for a few weeks before Alex died, and Zulema was already part of this group, and the circumstances around them getting married are really fishy, kind of sketchy.
He often came over to visit, and I think Melanie too. I met her at her house, and then Zulema I met at church.
Okay, so Melanie and Alex would come to the house while you were there with Lori, and what was that interaction like? What was that relationship like?
It was kind of fun and enjoyable. Alex was fun, and he was a comedian kind of guy, and we just talk about all kinds of stuff, sometimes spiritual stuff, sometimes non-spiritual stuff. It was in the beginning, it was just more casual because, Alex at this point didn't know anything about that until later on.
Would you say that Chad and Lori were kind of leaders, or at least they were working their way to be leaders of a group, of other people that might follow their teachings?
So ultimately.
Yeah. Did you see the Waco documentary that just dropped on Netflix? It's actually pretty good. I watched it.
Yes, they did believe that they were the head of the 144,000. So, that's scriptural. That word is scriptural, right? But they believed that was what their assignment was. So I guess in some sense, you could say that they were trying to find people that would fit that group individually.
And all along, they're going to church every Sunday. To
a point. And then she just stopped going after a while. After she felt that Charles was kind of chasing her with the papers to be signed for divorce, she kept running. And so I don't think she went to church. So she hadn't gone to church in a long time. And if she did go, it was very rare.
But you were going.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Have you heard anything about burner phones, 60 burner phones?
And Lori didn't want that divorce, even though he was trying to get divorced, right? Lori didn't want that divorce. She wanted to kill him so she could get the insurance. because she thought she'd be the beneficiary. But the joke was on her, because even though they hadn't gotten divorced yet before he was killed, he had already changed the beneficiary to his sister.
It's being used to communicate, or
I don't know that word burner.
it's like a prepaid phone that you can go down to 7-Eleven and buy a phone and put 400 minutes on it, and then once it's done, you can get another one. It's not like you have a cell phone plan or anything. Did Laura use a lot of those type of devices?
Well, I know that she had about 3 phones, but they seem to be the same phones. So if she did those and threw them away, I don't know about that.
But she had 3 phones and was getting calls on all of them.
Yeah, it was hard to track her at times. You didn't know which phone she was going to pick up.
Why did she need so many phones?
Well, she had one special phone that her and Chad would communicate with, and he had a special phone outside of his cell phone number. So it was just for their personal communication.
So one specific phone for Chad and Lori to communicate with.
Yeah.
And why could they not communicate on their normal phone?
I guess in case somebody picked it up and saw their conversations.
Why do you think they were so secretive?
When you go to church in the temple, there's certain questions they ask you to see if your belief systems are consistent with the doctrine, and they were inconsistent. And so that's a reason you're going to be secret about it, because you think you know something more than they do. That, at least that's what was introduced, is this idea we know more. So if that got out, people would think you were unusual or weird in the church, right? And then they would say, hey, I don't think that you're allowed to go into the temple because of these teachings. So you're going to keep that secret, right?
Latter-day Saints need, if they want to go and worship at the temple, they need to go see their religious leaders, their clergy, every 2 years, and get a recommend that allows you to go into the temple. But you have to be living certain standards. And you're saying Chad and Lori clearly were not living those standards, or at least following the doctrines being taught.
Correct.
But they were still going to the temple.
Oh yeah, that was her favorite place to go. So she did actually go to the temple, but maybe not to church.
She'd go to the temple, but not to church.
Yeah.
So did you know that their teachings weren't in line with the mainstream?
Yeah.
And did you talk with her about it?
Yeah.
And what was the reaction?
Well, when she
And Melanie sits here kind of in judgment of those weird streams, or those weird beliefs, but was part of it herself. That's why I've always been sketchy about this woman.
she taught me, she was leading me to believe they were true. So there would be times where I'm like, do you think that's a good idea? Or do you think this is, those kind of thoughts? But I just kind of didn't voice a much opposition to it, but just more listened, just more listened.
Was there ever a time where you thought, whoa, this is too much. This crosses the line?
Well, I always thought this is a little unusual, especially, we'll get in talking about later about the zombie thing, but that was definitely unusual. That was hard to completely believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was quite unusual.
Did you feel, or did they make you feel special or chosen as they're teaching you these things, that you are one of the elect and you need to be with us?
Yep.
And how did that make you feel?
Very cult-like behavior. You're special. You have a special place in the eyes of God, or whatever the belief system's, deity is. That's also a common thing for just narcissists or toxic people to do, is to treat you like you are. It's kind of like love bombing. You are special. We are special. We have a special love. You and I, have a, we're living in a plane that's better than most people. It's a very common tactic.
First I thought it was me, right? So first you have that feeling of, I don't feel like that's something, because I didn't get that personally from God, so I thought it was unusual. So she kind of had to keep talking me into it. That makes sense. Like, you really are, you need to believe this, and with much enthusiasm.
How did Lori describe your relationship with her?
I would say she would call me a best friend, or either a really good friend.
And you all knew each other in previous lives?
Well, she claimed that we did, but I have no memory of that.
They obviously made you feel very special, made you feel like you were elect, that you were chosen. And as things progressed, did you gradually come to really believe that and say, yeah, I am one of the chosen ones?
To some level, not 100%, but to some level.
But maybe she was holding reservations in her mind at the time, but she was a full part of the group of, the members that believe these things.
Were their beliefs and this, belief system written down or recorded in any way?
Yeah. There was paperwork that showed all the 12 apostles, to the Old Testament apostles, prophets, people and their the friends that they knew currently, to maybe some movie stars or people just in general. They had maybe 4 pages. I don't know how many pages. And that was created by Chad. And he would say, well, these are who they are. This is what lives they live. This is how many times they've been on. So yes, it was a whole document. It was a whole plan.
So to believe that a man could come up with godlike ideas about other people, that is extremely cult-like behavior.
They would write down on paper, like, this is how many lives, this is how, what needs to get to this level, you need to go to this many. I mean, it was quite the plan, if that makes sense. It was quite the
Detailed
list. I mean, it was, and I know that Charles was aware of it because he sent it out to a lot of people.
So Chad came up with all of this on his own.
That I know of. I don't know if he got it from anywhere else. I've never heard that before.
And movie stars.
I think so, or either he told us personally. I didn't look at the whole list, so I can't say. I just kind of browsed it a little bit because I didn't feel like it was for me to look at.
Yeah.
So I kind of skimmed it a little bit. So,
can you tell me about Chad and Lori sealing themselves in the temple to each other? And for those people that aren't familiar, couples will go to the temple and be married and sealed together, meaning they believe that the relationship will continue after this life ends. Did Chad and Lori talk about what they were doing in the temple together, which would be against church policy and procedure?
Right. Chad didn't tell me, but Lori did.
What did she tell you?
And she just told me they went together and they felt that they were sealed by those on the other side of the veil that had the authority to do that.
So
what they're talking about, and again, Melanie knew this, okay? Melanie knew this, that they were both married to other people, but they sealed themselves to each other in the temple.
So they were in the temple together when this happened.
Right.
Yet she's still married to Charles and he's still married to Tammy.
Correct.
And when you would raise this with them, that, hey, you're still married, what was their reaction, or at least Lori's, because I'm sure you never had a chance to talk to Chad about it.
She said that it was okay that they did this because they had been married so many times before that their spouses would understand someday. Lori,
from what I understand, said that she has been on 21 planets and Chad has been on 31. Have you heard that before?
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say planets, but I would just say lives.
Mm-hmm. So she's had 21 lives and he's had 31. Mm-hmm. That he was a Holy Ghost and has had 5.
There's just no possible way to know those things. No possible way.
Lives on this earth, and she's had 4 lives.
Correct. And no, I think she had 5 lives on this earth.
She had 5 lives on this. They both had 5 lives on this earth.
I believe so.
And Chad made a portal in Lori's closet so she can visit him. What does that mean? That sounds kind of crazy, I'll be honest.
It does sound crazy. So a portal was something that he created for her. I don't know exactly how he did it, but maybe
like a box?
No, it's just a spot where he just maybe said a prayer or however words he uses to create this portal. I don't know. I mean, I wasn't there. I don't know.
Sure.
But it's not like he could come through it physically, but it was a way for them to interact spiritually.
I see. Yeah. So it was like a sacred area where if she wanted to connect with him, she could go sit and then they would have a connection. What do you think about that?
I thought it was different. I thought, how do you do that? Like, do you have to have some special skills to do that? I didn't understand how people could do that, but I don't know. It was pretty extreme, but to me, everything was new. And I just thought, well, these people know things that I don't know about this stuff. So
it seems to me, though, that all along you were kind of at the back of your mind questioning, not blindly believing everything they said, but somewhat skeptical. Would that be an accurate?
Yeah. I mean, if you were to talk to Lori, she'd probably say I believed it. But there's always a little bit of doubt because I know she also had doubt. And
yeah, did you see how she said that? If you talk to Lori, she would say that I believed it. Yeah, well, because you were fully a part of the group, of the ideals. You talked in depth about them. You expressed excitement about them. And this woman represents just one of many people who did that.
She, on occasion, 2 or 3 times said to me, if Chad is Satan, he sure is a good one. So that tends to lead me to think that she wasn't 100% convinced either.
That she may have doubted Chad too.
Yeah.
And she said, if Chad is a Satan, he sure is a good one.
Yeah.
Do you know, did she ever tell him that?
Not that I know of.
Or raise questions with him? That
I don't know.
You don't know. You talked a little bit about Alex. What was he like with Zulema? Did you have much interaction with the two of them?
Just a little bit at the end, because they didn't know it. Well, they didn't get together until the very end. So they were just developing a friendship.
And you met Zulema at church?
Correct.
Okay. And what was Melanie Boudreau like?
Yeah, they got married within 2 weeks of something of knowing each other. And we now know that this marriage was probably arranged by Chad and Lori. I mean, this is such a deep, deep case.
She was, she's fun. I really love Melanie. We did have a special relationship. She loved me and I loved her. And so she seemed that she had a lot of strife going on in her life. And she was really worried about her family. And so we had conversations about what was going on to some level. I mean, I wasn't as involved with their conversations as Lori and Melanie were, but.
So they're talking about Melanie, who is Melanie Pulowski. That's her last name now, who at the time was getting a divorce from her husband, Brendan Boudreaux, and an assassination attempt was made on Lori's um, uh, nephew-in-law right around the time that an assassination attempt was made on Tammy Daybell. And then Melanie and this guy, Ian Pulowski, who was hanging around the group, they ended up getting married within a day of Alex and Zulema. So people say that was also an arranged marriage. But interestingly, Ian Pulowski at one point wore a wire for the FBI, bribed the teachings, and came clean about it. And there was an interview about it. So crazy.
As far as I went, we just were a support of, to each other, I think.
Would it be fair to say that you, Chad, Lori, Melanie, Alex, Zulema, you six were kind of a close group of friends, kind of a tight-knit family in a way?
Yes.
So you all would spend a lot of time together. And during these meetups, over dinner or whatever, you talk about religious things, the mysteries of God, things like that.
Sometimes we didn't meet together as a group, like a close friendship group together very often. We met on a very rare occasion together, all of us. We more like saw each other here or there, or talked on the phone, or took a drive here together. But that kind of, like you would a friend. You don't always get together as a group, but yeah.
And was it always religious talk?
Pretty much, I would say so.
Not a lot of other talk about politics or weather,
politics.
sports.
Probably not politics and sports. No, I wouldn't even talk about that.
Sure, yeah, gardening, whatever.
I would talk about gardening.
So it was mainly religious talk when you'd all get together.
Yeah.
September of 2019, Lori.
See, so it's impossible to be just like kind of halfway believing and, then coming out and admitting, oh, we talked about this all the time. We talked about, all these wacko beliefs all the time.
Moves to Rexburg.
Right.
Did you know she was going to move? Did she talk with you about this before?
Yep. Well, she didn't decide until, I think August, maybe.
And how did she break the news to you?
Well, she said that first she thought Chad would come to be with her in Arizona. And then she said, I think I changed my plans. I think I'm supposed to be up there. He says I'm supposed to be up there, but I need to get my own answer to find out if I'm supposed to be there, because she didn't really want to go there at first. And then she said, I was told, yes, I need to go, and she needs to be there by a certain time. And so she decided to go. And then she just told me that I need to go up there.
And at that time, you're seeing her every day with...
No, not every day at this point. It starts to slow down when Charles passed away. I didn't see her as much. It started kind of tapering off in the end, and especially when she moved to Rexburg, it really tapered off because she was now. And then plus she had been to a few different places, Hawaii and Texas. And so, obviously I couldn't spend every day with her. So it started to taper down after she started moving more.
And before Charles passed, you're talking to her a lot. And is she telling you that she wants to get a divorce, or she's saying Charles is pushing this divorce on me?
She says that he wants to get it, but she does not want to. She doesn't want to go through another divorce again.
I want to get back to that in a minute. But in September, she moved.
She doesn't want to go through another divorce again, but she wants to have an affair. Make it make sense, right? Make it make sense.
Tells you that she needs to go up there. And what was your reaction about Chad telling her she needs to come up there, knowing that Chad still has the wife and 5 kids?
Yeah, well, we talked about that. I'm like, it's not going to be awkward. She was uncomfortable with it. She believed that Tammy was going to pass away, though, before she got up there. And that didn't happen. She didn't pass away before she got up there. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, I said, aren't you uncomfortable? Maybe she'll see you guys together. And so
sounds wild and crazy, Mark.
Different, that she was going to be up there when Tammy was still alive.
And she told you, well, Tammy will die before I move up there.
Right.
How was she going to die?
I heard a few times, maybe through a car accident, something like that.
So they thought Tammy would be in a car crash.
Yeah.
A few times. So they're talking extensively about how the spouses of these people are going to die.
Would pass away, then Lori would move up there, and then she could marry Chad.
Mm-hmm. And
when that didn't happen, she said, I've still got to go.
Yeah, because, the other side of the veil she's talking to, she said, I need to be there by this date. And
she's communicating with
someone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So she moves up there, and from what I understand, she and Chad would walk around the track at BYU, Idaho, holding hands, maybe kissing, just displaying, looking like a married couple.
Well, she told me that they did walk around the track together. She didn't tell me what they did or didn't do, but I did have an opportunity to walk with them. And then we walked around and looked at the different pictures. I'd never been there before, so I saw the pictures that were in the gymnasium, behind it where they have these beautiful pictures. So we talked and we walked, and yeah, I was surprised. I'm like, aren't you worried that people are going to see you? And she says, well, Tammy doesn't come out a lot. She doesn't come over to this part a lot, so.
But they were openly affectionate.
Yeah, that's and they said a lot of people that knew Chad didn't know what Tammy looked like because he didn't do a lot of the things together.
Did Chad ever talk about Tammy possibly passing away?
I can't recall if he said it, but I know she did. He was very quiet most of the time. He let her do most of the talking.
How would you describe his personality at that time? Just
reserved. Reserved. A little. Sometimes he came across not very confident.
Did you stay with Lori at that time when you went up to visit her?
Mm-hmm.
And were the kids there?
JJ was.
But Tylee was not.
Tylee was not.
Where was she?
I was told she was at BYU.
BYU in Provo?
Idaho.
BYU in Idaho. Would that have been a normal answer? Like,
so now they're talking about how after Tylee's, Melanie and her boyfriend at the time, now husband, went and stayed in Rexburg with Lori and Chad. Well, with Lori, but Chad was around, and Tylee was already dead by this point. But Lori was telling Melanie, "Oh, she's in college," even though she wasn't even old enough to be in college.
a normal, okay, that makes sense type thing.
Well, I knew that Tylee had had her GED that she got when she was 16 or 17. I'm not sure exactly the age. And so it could have been plausible, but it didn't feel like it. There was definitely question marks. It was question marks for me. It didn't feel real. It didn't feel like the truth. I didn't know what to say about it. I wouldn't assume that she had done something to her. So it was kind of, I don't know. It was unusual.
But you didn't question her.
I didn't question it.
Was JJ with you on the walks?
No.
Where was he?
He was at home.
By himself?
His uncle was watching him.
Alex.
Yeah.
Okay. So JJ's home with Alex, but there's no sign of Tylee.
Correct.
And how long did you stay with Lori? Was it for a week?
So Thursday to a Monday morning.
I'm assuming Tylee never called her. She never called Tylee.
She didn't even talk about her.
Never spoke about Tylee. Did she speak at all about JJ?
Yeah. I mean, he was all around us and we were talking about him quite a bit, actually.
What did she say?
As I arrived on the Thursday, she had said that he had turned into a zombie.
See, so she's talking about how JJ is being called a zombie by the time this woman is visiting, and Melanie and her husband are now believed to be among the last people that saw JJ alive.
The day before I got there, and she was pointing out behaviors of his, like, look how he's doing this, that's unusual, or look how he's doing that. And she was trying to create uncertainty in me about what I saw his behavior. Like, what do you call that? Like a doubt. And I was looking at him and I thought, well, I don't know, it kind of looks like JJ to me. Hyper and angry one minute and kind of chill or crying the next minute. Like, that's how his behaviors always were around me. I don't know if they are.
Also, by this time, when they moved to Rexburg, we now know that Lori had taken away, had returned JJ's support dog, his therapy dog. She had rehomed it or returned it to the place where she got him. It was a very special doodle type of dog that JJ loved. So he didn't have this dog anymore. And she had stopped giving him his prescribed medication by this time. So whatever prescribed medication would have prevented him from acting like what Chad and Lori would call a zombie.
Are always like that, but that's how I noticed him when I was around both of them. And she just gave me a few scenarios of different things he would say. That sounded a little unusual. I didn't hear him say it, but she'd share things like he said this or he said that.
Had she talked about zombies before?
Mm-hmm.
And what did she tell you before JJ? What did she teach you about zombies and believe in zombies?
So the first person, as we all know, is Charles, was considered one. And that was brought to Lori's attention by Chad on the phone call. I was in her house when that phone call came in. And he described to her that Charles was no longer Charles.
So this is very material to the case and will be, I'm sure, talked about in the trial, is how Chad now had developed this system. And now he's telling Lori that her husband, Charles, is giving basically Lori the justification for deciding that Charles should no longer live because he's a zombie. His body has been taken over by a dark spirit called either Ned or Neil Schneider.
That this unclean spirit that was friends with Charles on the earth, when they used to be friends, had now passed on. And now he is this unclean spirit on the earth roaming around. And now he's attached himself to Charles. And now he has entered his body and taken over it. So he's not really Charles anymore. He's now this guy named Ned Snyder. And so it was when she told me, and she seemed blown out by it. I could tell she was like, that is really different. And she told me, and I thought that is very unusual. It was just, because Chad had this influence on people because he had visionary experience. He could see things. At least he said, he portrays that he did. But I do believe that when you think somebody can see things or have visionary experience about things, you tend to kind of believe them more than the average person. Because, if you ask me, I'd say I don't see anything. So you wouldn't take my point of view or my opinion. But if you had somebody that was really good at having visionary, because he often said that it was like
Chad developed an intricate system where he felt he had the ability to see whether somebody was a light spirit or a dark spirit. And if they reach below a certain ranking point in his system, they were declared a zombie, and then they ended up dead.
like the veil was open when he had his near-death experiences. So he often said that veil is open all the time. So he had this way of seeing things that Lori and I didn't have that we didn't have that gift of seeing. But I do have come to understand that that gift has been manipulated by the adversary. And so
he was putting himself out there as a prophet. I have visions because I've had near-death experiences, which if you really read about them, they weren't really near-death experiences. That he basically belly flopped into the ocean and and got his bell rung the way anybody would, and he calls it a near-death experience. And there's another, I think, a experience on falling off a ladder or something like that. Again, he got his I haven't seen that, Sonny. They Live. I haven't seen that, so I don't know what you're talking about. But yeah, so he said that because of these near-death experiences, he had the ability to see, quote unquote, beyond the veil, and could see things that other normal mortal human beings could not. And so he's once again putting himself on this rarefied status that drew people into the cult.
By Satan.
Absolutely.
She told him all of this.
She did.
And you're saying Lori even felt uncomfortable with that information that Chad had told her?
In the first day, I'll say the first day that she was trying to absorb it, I knew it was new for her.
And Chad's the one that called Lori and
Absolutely.
said, an evil spirit has attached himself.
At least that's what Lori says. We can't believe a word Lori says. So it could be that he, talked to her about this zombie situation and she went right for it. But she was telling Melanie Gibb, oh, I don't believe this stuff. People do that kind of stuff all the time when they're testing the waters with their friends about how far they'll go. They'll be like, gosh, I was just told this. Don't you think it's crazy? But they're really just testing what that person says in response to see how far they'll go. Oh, They Live. It's a film in 1991. Cool. I'll check it out.
To Charles.
That's right.
Named Ned.
That's right.
Any idea where that name came from?
I don't know how he got his information, other than she would say he would often sit in his portal and receive revelation about people.
So he's sitting in the portal most likely and received that. And he's telling.
Right around this time this stuff was coming out, there were all kinds of memes about Chad and his potty portal.
Lori, Charles has this evil spirit. He's a zombie.
I'm not sure if they used that word in the beginning.
Okay.
They didn't use that word right away. They probably said that someone has taken over his body named this Ned Snyder.
She tells him, he becomes worried, actually goes before court and says she needs to have a mental, psychological evaluation.
Correct.
Did you go with her to that evaluation?
I did.
And what was that like?
They received her and she said, oh, she passed with flying colors, and she got out quickly, and I waited on the outside for her, and then Tylee's actually the one that picked us up from there.
And when you say passed with flying colors, do you know what they did? Was it just an exam where she filled out a questionnaire or she met with the doctor?
They went in the back room and they just talked to her about all kinds of stuff and asked her all kinds of questions. She didn't tell me.
What she's forgetting to, what she's passing over is that before Lori went in, her and Lori went in for that psych evaluation. They had visited the police department and reported Charles as being, as doing terrible things to Lori. And Lori sat there and batted her eyes and flirted with the police at the station. And Melanie was backing her up in painting Charles as a crazed lunatic husband. So again, if that hadn't happened and Lori, she hadn't been so enabled, Lori would probably not have been able to go as far as she did. Oh, Bigfoot does, huh? I didn't know that.
Detail of things I probably didn't want to know, but yeah, she seemed that she wasn't evaluated as mentally ill. So they said that she's like, oh, you're fine. We know that you're not mentally ill. I mean, that's what she told me that they said to her. So
do you think she was honest with them in her religious beliefs, or did she lie and give them the answers they wanted to hear?
I don't know. I don't know what they asked her. I mean, I should have asked her that, but I didn't.
So she gets out of there.
Lori's alive.
Is that when the whole incident with her purse happened?
Shortly after.
And tell me about that. She accused Charles of stealing her purse from the car, right?
Correct. Right. So she went to drop off JG at the school that he goes to. He was out of town, so his truck was moved from the airport. And so
by
when
Lori
he came back from his flight, there was no truck. And so then I don't know how he got around or anything. Maybe he called a friend. I don't know what he did. And then I got to remember the details of this. I know she had JJ. She dropped him off at school. And then he came to the school, and then he opened her car door, took her purse, and then took off. And then she got in the car, and she didn't see him. I don't believe she.
he did that so that she would go to the police station and get the psych eval. That was why he did it, because after his car wasn't there after his truck wasn't there at the airport when he came back home, he went to his home and everything had been cleared out, and Melanie had helped Lori do that. Okay. Melanie was part of all this. That's
She saw him, and then she's like, her purse is missing.
Is all of these things are happening. There's a lot of bizarre incidents. Did you ever think, what is going on here? How can there be this much drama in one post?
It was a lot of drama, and I would ask them, like, why do these things keep happening to you? Because I have never been around so much drama in my life. I'm kind of a chill person, and so it just seemed like there was one drama after another drama, and it never ended. And so I just thought, wow, this person. I used to say to her, why is everybody in your life turn into zombies? Like, why is everybody after you? Like, why? I don't understand. And she would say, well, it's because Satan really hates me, and I'm because of my exaltation on the level that I'm exalted to, they're coming straight after me.
So anyone that would disagree with her or cause her any sort of problem would become a...
It's kind of similar to no problem, Mark. It's very similar to people saying, oh, well, they don't like me because I'm better than them. They don't like me because I'm being brought into drama because people are so jealous of me and they just want what I have. It's very, very, very similar thing that you hear a lot here on YouTube.
A zombie?
Pretty much. Or either considered to be dark. They're a little bit different, but that's another discussion.
Yeah. From what I understand, Lori knew how many zombies were in every state.
Yeah.
And she could tell who was a zombie and who wasn't.
Well, not their name. Like, she couldn't know the whole world's name, so she would just have a number Chad would give her. Like, I guess he would receive revelation on, okay, there's this many. So it was their commission, though, to get rid of all the zombies before, tribulations came upon us. That was their goal.
And how would they get rid of the zombies?
Through some kind of prayer that they would do, which they believed was effective because they'd go back and,
So Melanie's here. Melanie, who was here, believing that all they would do was sit there and pray. Even the idea that they would pray for people to die because they're zombies. And Melanie was cool. She was all cool with that. All totally cool. It's okay to pray about people that they think are zombies dying. Even that is not copacetic. You know what I mean?
Checking the portal to how many died, and the number would come up, 10,000 died or whatever, but there was no way of knowing it was real. Does that make sense? I mean, you have to say, does that make sense, Nick?
I know about it.
So let me get this straight. They're saying there's 10,000 zombies in Idaho. Go into the portal, say the prayer, come out and say, oh, we got rid of 1,000 of them.
Something like that.
Let's talk a little bit about Charles, and then we'll get back to September when you got to the house. Because from what I understand, Lori received a revelation that Charles was supposed to die in an accident on his way home from Texas.
Correct.
He didn't die. So what was her reaction at that point?
Well, I asked her, I'm like, why didn't he die? You were told he was supposed to die. Why didn't he die? And she said, well, I think she went to Chad and asked because I don't think she knew the answer to that. And so he let her know that the accident that was supposed to happen didn't because of people's choices. So when things didn't go according to plan or according to a timing, it was only because of agency, and it would change. Always because somebody changed their agency. Very inconsistent.
And the night before Charles died, didn't she call Alex and say, come and stay with me? Do you know? Mm-hmm. She did.
Yeah.
And then the next day, Alex shot Charles. What do you think happened there?
I didn't know about it till like 4 days after it happened. She called me and she said, hey, did you see the news? I'm like, I don't watch the news.
Wait a second. Your best friend did not tell you for 4 days that her husband had been shot and killed.
Correct. I found out through her, though. She did call me and let me know. And she said, have you not heard and watched the news? I said, I don't watch the news. And she said, Charles was shot. And I'm like, what? And so tell me what happened. And anyway, so I got to visit with her for a while, and she gave me the rendition that she gave the police. It sounded, what I've heard, it sounds like the same thing as, he came over. And the question that I had, that part of me was like, well, why is he coming to get you and kill you? Like, I don't understand why Charles wants to kill you.
She told you Charles showed up to kill her.
That was his way. He was coming down from Texas.
To kill her.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why she had called Alex the night before to come over to the house.
Mm-hmm.
And Lori had told her whole family this. And most of them, except a couple, believed her.
And that he shot Charles in self-defense.
Correct.
You knew, though, that she had told you months earlier that Charles was possessed of a zombie.
Correct.
So did you think, well, there's more here?
Right, because if he's coming down, that's why I'm like, well, what, like as a person that would perceive, the public wouldn't perceive him as a zombie, right? Like, what kind of reason could he give anybody for coming down to kill her? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And so she just said, well, they're after me. And I said, well, why? She said, well, for insurance. Like I have $3 million of insurance on my head. And I'm like,
Oh God.
She said she had $3 million of insurance on her head.
Mhm.
Did she ever talk to you about Charles's insurance?
Yeah. Mhm.
What did she say?
She said that he had, I think, about $1 million, and that she knew when he passed away that she thought she'd get the money.
So she talked about how when Charles dies, I'm going to get $1 million.
I don't know if she was 100% sure because she thought maybe possibly it could have been switched from her to Kay. So she wasn't sure she was really going to get it or not.
But it was something she was thinking about and talking about.
Yeah, she didn't know about it.
And then when she found out it had been switched to Kay, what was that conversation like?
Well, she wasn't overjoyed about it. And she's like, oh, Kay has the money now. But she also believed that Kay was a zombie as well. So she just believed that they were all against her. That was her belief system. You know, as time passed, she's like, I'll get something from you. When a spouse dies, you get Medicare, I think, something like that.
Some sort of benefit.
Yeah, and he was a bit older than her, so she knew that she could get something still, so that she wasn't completely left without anything.
And she brought that up.
I think I'll just start doing that. I'll just believe that if somebody doesn't like me, they're a zombie. I mean, Jesus Christ.
That she would get money.
Yeah, because I was like, what are you going to do? How are you going to take, the typical things that you talk about when people pass away? Like, how are you going to provide for yourself?
We heard that she was also getting money as a single mom, money from Tylee and JJ because JJ had disabilities.
So I know Tylee received money from her father's death. And yeah, I think so. I think JJ did too. I don't remember talking about that too often.
We figured it out, and it was around $6,000 a month, tax-free, that she got between the three.
Yeah, I think she mentioned something like she could get that much amount. Something sounds familiar.
What was your thought when you heard all of this talk about zombies?
I did question it. All of us did. I mean, I sat and talked to Alex about that a few weeks before he passed away. I'm like, I'm not too sure about this zombie thing. He goes, I 100% believe it.
He said he 100% believed it.
Yes. So Alex really did believe.
Do you think that when he shot Charles, that was in his mind, that
Yep.
Charles is a zombie,
Yep.
and I must get rid of him?
Yeah, because he really felt to protect his sister. That was his duty.
To protect his sister.
Mhm.
So by the time you get up to Rexburg in September, this zombie talk has become normal, or at least you've heard it before.
Correct.
And so let's pick up where we were a minute ago with JJ. She tells you, right when you get there, JJ's a zombie?
Correct.
And starts to point out
I
things that
guess
she
so,
believed
Mark.
had zombified him.
Right.
And you're thinking as an outsider, what?
I'm looking at him and trying to
Because
discern.
they're zombies.
And it looks normal to me. I couldn't tell. So I was like, there was a lot of doubt there, obviously. I mean, it's hard to believe that completely.
The person who ended up with the life insurance payout for Charles's death was deemed a zombie, so I guess they can.
I don't ever even believe that Lori completely ever believed it.
You don't?
I think she, like when you want to believe something sometimes and you listen to people tell you, like maybe she's listening to Chad, or maybe because of why it was happening, sometimes you really want to believe stuff just because you want the outcome is much what you're desiring to have. And so, yeah, I don't know if I think she believed it to a certain level. I'll just say that, but I don't know. I'm not confident that she 100% believed it.
It sounds to me that Chad was kind of calling the shots.
She would say, he's so much better at getting revelation than me. So I used to get a lot, but I rely upon him a lot more now. So she trusted his.
So he was just much better at making shit up, basically.
Because she was not considered a visionary, right? So he would tell her, these people, whoever was around her, these people are doing this, they're doing that, they're dark, or they're zombie or whatever. He was the one she would call and ask this question. She said she wasn't very good at getting the answers.
Do you think Chad told her that JJ had become a zombie?
I think so, yeah.
So she tells you all these things. You're kind of like, he looks normal to me, looks like normal JJ.
Yeah.
Did it worry you at all that, oh no, look what happened when Charles became a zombie? Something might happen to him?
I didn't think she would do that because that's her boy. We had actually talking about this. She goes, well, I need to, it's time for JJ to, I don't know how she worded it, but it was something to the effect, it's time for, he's in the way of our mission. So we need to send him to Kay's house. That was kind of like the idea is what can we do? And so we talked about Kay and we talked about some of her family members that could actually take him on. And so we talked about, what that conversation would be like with Kay. And she wasn't sure if Kay would really receive him. And so we talked about just different ideas about, him going there. And so that was the plan that I knew of is he's going to Kay's house. She told me that. I know that from what I saw in one of the video clippings that she also told a neighbor that as well. And so that's what I believe was going to happen to him. So I left thinking that that's where he was going with his case for sure. I didn't doubt that.
So as her friend, you're saying, okay, he's a zombie. He's in the way of your mission. She
Right.
said that. So you guys came up with a plan of why don't we let Kay take care of him or someone in Kay's family?
Yeah.
Had you dealt with Kay before?
I met her briefly, but I didn't interact with her.
Okay.
It was like, hi, how are you, Melanie? And that was about it.
So even though Lori had an issue with Kay, she was willing that day at least to say, yeah, we'll send JJ to Kay.
Correct.
You leave Rexburg
That's right.
thinking JJ's going to go to Kay's house.
He's a
That's right.
zombie.
You never saw Tylee the whole weekend
Correct.
because she was at college, allegedly. What happens from there?
This is where there's a big turn in my life. This is when it hits the fan. This is the part that I hate talking about.
Yeah.
This was hard for me. I'm sure I talked to her a few times on the phone. She did express that he went to Kay's house. Okay. So I don't know when she told me, but I would say within a short period of time after I left.
She called and said he's a case.
Right. And she said, oh yeah, we met at the airport and she received him and he's going to go stay. I mean, she gave me the whole story. So I just, I believed it. And it's about Thanksgiving and everything changed. I thought he was safe and I get a call from Chad 2 days before Thanksgiving. I still feel emotional about it. He said, Melanie, it's Chad. When the police call, don't pick up the phone. And my heart just dropped. I was so confused. I'm like, what? He says, yeah, the police are over at Lori's house.
She didn't pick up the phone. She didn't.
And I'm like, JJ's not with Kay? No. My heart dropped deeper. And I just knew something was wrong, but I didn't know. I didn't understand. Like, when you believe your friends are good people, you couldn't believe that they could do something like that.
What was Chad's demeanor like on the phone? Was he stoic? What was he like?
He was very nervous.
He was nervous.
He was very scared. He did not sound himself. Very unsure, very quivery almost. Yeah, it was a hard moment.
So that call comes completely out of the blue.
Out of the blue. Wasn't expecting that at all.
He says, don't pick up the phone when the police call. He's scared. He's nervous. He says, they're going to call you because they're at Lori's house.
And she's going to tell them that JJ's with you.
She's going to tell the cops that JJ's with you in Arizona.
No, I was in Utah at the time.
You were in Utah.
Yeah.
First of all, that's a bombshell. It's just thrown.
I can't even describe how I felt. They put me in a very awkward situation.
Were you able to even question him, or was your mind just?
I was questioning in my mind, but verbally, there was nothing coming out really. I did say, why? She said, well, Kay is trying to kidnap him. And I said, how do you know that? Well, through emails. The emails. I said, I have not read your emails. What do they say? She said, Kay had mentioned, it's not like I'm going to kidnap JJ or anything. And I did think to myself, that doesn't sound like a threat.
How soon after did Lori then call?
I can't recall, but it was soon after.
Soon after. And what does she say?
She sounded like everything was wonderful and great. She had an upbeat voice, and I was like, wow, she's positive. And it gave me a little hope that, hey, maybe, it's not what I'm thinking the worst.
What did she say?
She said, hey, everything's fine. Everything's okay. And I mean, I can't quote exactly all the things I said. So she led me to believe that everything was fine, that, that JJ was, I'm trying to remember how she worded it, that she was protecting JJ, something to the fact that they were not just Kay, but felt like many people were after him. And so she was trying to protect him. That's what she told me. But I talked to the police before. I was like, when you get a gut feeling, that's real, right? And they're like, yeah, you got to go on gut instinct.
And what was your gut feeling?
If something was terribly wrong. I mean, it just stayed in there for a long time, that gut feeling. It did not feel comfortable. Something was telling me something's off here. I wanted to believe her. I didn't want to think that she would do anything like that. I really, really wanted to believe her.
What did she ask you to do?
She asked me to tell the police that JJ was with me, and that when I went, because I was going to go and drive down to Arizona for Thanksgiving, and that he was going to go with me, which I didn't know any of this, right? It's all new to me. That she had made it sound like we had arranged it or something. But anyway, he was going to go down to Arizona with me, and she was going to come down there later and pick him up. So that was a foreign idea to me. I'd never heard of that before. So it was I can't even tell you how uncomfortable, after I get to Arizona and everything. I was talking to Alex as I wanted to meet with him.
And then the police called her and
she goes, I cannot believe she threw you under the bus like that.
So Alex came to your defense.
And I said, I can't believe she did either. I said, I can't believe she said that. I don't. That was not smart.
Tell me about what she asked you to do at the movie theater.
Yeah, Alex couldn't believe that she threw Melanie under the bus like that, because Alex is the one that probably did the killing.
So she said, I told the police that you were Frozen 2 with JJ, and to get your cell phone out and just take a picture of random kids running around to make it look like you had them with you. And I was thinking to myself, no, I don't make stuff up like that. I don't do that. So I'm just in shock still. I really, really was in a shock type of. It's just, everybody's listening. Everybody has different opinions, what they're going to think about all this, right? But in that moment, I really did not know what to say.
And you weren't in the right frame of mind to question her.
Right, I wasn't.
And so you hang up that call. Did she say anything else other than go to the movie theater, take pictures of random kids, and talk about the Arizona plan?
I know that at one point we talked about her going on a trip with Chad's children to California. She might have mentioned it during that time, or I called her shortly after that when I was driving down to Arizona. It was between that conversation that I can't recall, but that they were going to go on a family vacation and that they were just going with the kids, his kids.
How quickly did the police call?
Within half an hour to an hour. After thinking and pondering and talking to a really good friend, I'm like, there's something off. And I admitted, I said, I'm very, very concerned about this zombie idea. I really don't believe it. And my friend said, I don't think it's true either. Then we talked till 5 o'clock in the morning. I mean, we talked about everything, the belief structure and all these different things. We talked about all kinds of things about these doctrines. We talked about many things and how they did not fit the pattern that the scriptures teach. I often think about when Jesus Christ was on the earth, he healed people, he cast out evil spirits. He did not kill people.
Now she's going to get into.
And if they did have an unclean spirit, he was hiding darkness. What was happening? He was not leading people to Christ. It was taking teachings of many lives or multiple probations within our own church or either close groups that are affiliated. And I want you to decide, as people that believe this, does having this information
So now she's giving a public appeal to the other followers of this doctrine and saying, so that basically says there are other people that believe this. They're still walking around believing these things. So she's trying to make a public appeal to them. And she also wrote a letter to that group of followers, using more of the very specific language that's used. Hello, Iron. Yes. Wait, no, Aaron. You said it was hey, Aaron. Yeah, no, this is me just going through and revisiting this interview based on what we know now, through the lens of what we know now. And I'm just incredulous that this woman sat here and gave this interview, distancing herself from something that just months before she was fully a part of. I'm not saying she was part of the killings. I have no idea. But she was a full enabler of these people.
Make you a better person? Does it make you loyal to your spouse? Does it make you feel like you're better than other people? Had not been introduced.
Now just to hear her sit here and pontificate to other people about this is just disingenuous.
Nobody would have ever died because they would have never thought they were married before. This is dangerous doctrine because this is not how he works. He works on a pattern. I am the same yesterday, today, and forever. He does not make exceptions to the rule. He has no respecter of persons. And when we want things, we do things that are not always the best. All of us do on this planet. And the thing that's interesting is we've all been deceived to some level. Everybody.
So just more religious talk.
She's got to admit that these people are dead, and it was because of their teachings and their ideas that they had these things
more
going on.
pontification.
So a friend and I called both of them. So I called Chad's phone, and I knew she would answer because I didn't think any of her phones were working anymore. And so I just said, I have no testimony that you've shared the things, your own personal experiences that are sacred. I have no testimony of that. It doesn't fit the pattern that I see. That's, the pattern of things I've seen within our own church. And I had a hard time speaking, honestly.
So she was basically lifting herself up as pushing back on Chad and Lori. And there was a conversation between Chad and Lori and Melanie that was played in the preliminary hearing, where Melanie is trying to get them to say where they are. And she's recording the conversation, and they end up getting into a fight because Melanie is saying what you guys are doing is wrong. This doctrine is wrong. And Lori starts to go off on her and on some sort of, Jesus-like tangent.
Very hard conversation for me. I said very little. And I said, could you just please tell us where the kids are, if they're safe? I think the first question is why haven't you told us where the kids are? Well, for your safety, we cannot tell you. And that just was an alarm for me because I was like, well, what safety? Why am I in danger? I didn't feel like I was in danger. They wouldn't answer us, of course. And I really didn't have a testimony of the things. I never got that confirmation that what the things they shared with me are true or not. So that we hung up with that conversation. I went to talk to police after that. And once I talked to them, I basically had a long conversation with both of them about a lot of personal feelings about, I'm concerned for you.
Is that how your encounter with them was as far as their relationship?
I think mostly. I mean, I don't know if he'd do everything for her, but I think he would do a lot of things for him. I think he just felt like a good brother, a big brother kind of figure that wanted to protect his sister. I mean, they had a lot of fun joking around with each other, and they just had a good relationship.
Were you able to talk to Lori after her brother died, or was you had quit communication at that point?
Yeah.
Let's fast forward to January. You see them in Hawaii when we saw them at a beach resort. What did you think when you saw the video of me trying to talk to them outside of the resort?
It was hard. It's hard for me. It's just hard for me to watch the whole story. Like I was in that place of just like, oh, I don't even want to see the news right now. So, so when I saw that, I had many feelings. I thought, this does not look good for her. And, some of the thoughts I had is if these kids, and please, everybody use their own reasoning for this idea, but, if you really do believe your children are being harmed, or, you think they're going to be kidnapped and you're worried about them, you would be happy to tell anybody and everybody in the police about that. You would not talk and try to, have no comment to you as you talk to them. I mean, you would say, I appreciate it. I would think you would interact if you really felt that I know if they were my kids and I had to put them in protection, and they want to be a support to her. I'm not sure all the reasons why they're saying what. I haven't watched much of, a lot of that footage, just a little bit, but sometimes when you know stuff, it's embarrassing to come forward with it, or you may get in trouble yourself. so you might not want to speak, or
Exactly.
you really believe them. So I don't know.
Do you think they know stuff?
I don't know about some of the people. I don't know all of what they know from Lori. I know some of them what they know, and I know some of them I don't know what
What
everybody
do
knows.
you know,
but
lady?
some
What
of
do
them do.
you know?
You said when you know stuff, it can be embarrassing. Is talking about this painful for you? Embarrassing? Relieving? Describe your thoughts.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's relieving so much as I'm happy to do it to help those that are suffering. But it's not my most favorite thing to talk to on television about those that I associated with that have done things that are, I mean, this case is so big and so widespread. You can't be excited about sharing, who you associated with. It's hard.
So I think we have the basic gist of what she's saying. The next, I want to jump to another interview, and this is a much shorter. I mean, there's really only couple minute clips from these interviews. This one is from Chad's kids. He has 5 children, and they all believe he's totally innocent. He's innocent. And this is the scene of when they were digging in the backyard. This is when they found the remains of Tylee and JJ in the backyard of Chad's house on the day that he got arrested.
In Chad Daybell's backyard. For the first time, the 5 Daybell children, Emma, Garth, Seth, Mark, and Leah, are speaking out together in defense of their father, who has pleaded not guilty to all charges.
Did your father, Chad Daybell, play any role in killing JJ and Tylee?
No.
Then why were their bodies found buried in your father's backyard?
I don't know, but I do know that if he were to commit a crime, he wouldn't be foolish enough to put the evidence in his own backyard.
That argument is so ridiculous. So he's just, he's smarter than that. If he killed somebody, he wouldn't have put them in the kids in their own backyard. Actually, it's very common for killers to bury remains where they have control over them, where they know that a search warrant would be needed. So they probably thought that there would never be a way or a reason for they're brainwashed zombies, all of them. It's really sick. And even some of these kids, I don't know if it's the one talking here, maybe it is, but they were posting memes on Facebook on the day that the kids were found, and then and afterward. They were absolutely cruel. They were so cruel on Facebook afterward in the things that they posted. It's really sick.
Nor would a one-time professional gravedigger have dug such shallow, crude graves, says Seth.
He knew how to dig graves. And
oh, well, he's a good gravedigger, but he was doing it in his backyard. Also, it's not clear whether it was Chad or Alex who dug the graves. Okay.
This doesn't sound believable to me.
But investigative reporter and CBS News consultant Morgan Lowe says that argument doesn't hold up if Chad were in a desperate panic.
Saying that somebody's prior experience as a gravedigger means that they wouldn't just sloppily bury somebody, discount.
Emma took us to her father's backyard to show us another reason why she believes her father wouldn't have buried JJ and Tylee here.
You can look around for miles and miles.
Their property is surrounded by plenty of places to hide a body.
There's land down there that no one would ever touch.
What do you say to those people who are still very skeptical with all of this?
It might seem like a convenient excuse, but if it's the truth, we have to hold to it.
Emma believes the children were put in her father's yard on purpose.
He was framed.
It all goes back to this woman, says Emma, her father's new wife, Lori Vallow Daybell.
Just unbelievable.
I think he was fooled in the worst most deadly way possible.
So
I guess it's
so of course there, it was around the time that these interviews came out that all the speculation started about Chad and Lori turning on each other and that Chad was about to turn. I know, Amelia, isn't it sad? It's so sad. Oh, by the way, please remember to hit the thumbs up. Thank you very much. So I'm going to go to another interview, and this one is the one with wait, where is that one? Oh yeah, I think it's down here. Sorry, I thought I had it pulled right up. Let me grab it. This is the one with Lori's mom and sister. It is absolutely disgusting. No problem, Mark. I'll put it in the link. I'm sorry, in the description afterward. Let's see. There it is.
AJ Vallow have been missing since September, but could they be alive tonight? And is their mother, Lori Vallow, protecting them as she sits in jail?
Well, that is the story.
So this interview was done before the kids were found. And the people were still speculating about, where could they be? Because Lori kept saying, they're safe, they're safe. And so her delusional mother and sister come on and back her up.
We heard from Lori's mother and sister when they sat down with our chief investigative reporter, Morgan Lowe. Here's the interview you will only see on Arizona's Family.
all she'd need to do was show proof that the kids are alive and are well. Can you understand why she's refusing to do that?
You know, it seems simple. It did to me.
Janice Cox is Lori Vallow's mother. She says she doesn't understand all of the reasons for Lori's actions. But she doesn't believe her daughter could have gone from doting mother to cold-blooded child killer.
All I know is the woman that she is. I did not see any great change.
So that, just so you know, I've been now covering true crime for a couple years now. And the family members and the friends of the killer always say, he could never do this. I'd never know. I just can't imagine him doing, excuse me, I'm have a little bit, excuse me, I have the hiccups right now. They always say this, you know, you look at the Chris Watts case. Oh, he's such a nice guy. He's such a nice guy. And it's usually when there's some sort of domestic violence crime, you know, where one spouse kills another spouse. Oh, there's no way she could have done that. There's no possible way. That's not a good, it doesn't hold up. We don't know what people are capable of doing in their private lives. That's why the evidence has to, and the facts have to be looked at so carefully and with accuracy.
Change in Lori?
Have you asked your sister where the kids are?
No, I've talked to her a couple of times.
Summer Shiflett is Lori's sister. She says Lori has spoken to her from jail.
And she said to me, you know me, and you know I've always taken care of my kids. And I do know that.
So where are the kids? We'll get to their theory in a moment. But first, Janice and Summer say they don't believe Lori had anything to do with her late husband, Charles Vallow's death. Lori's brother, Alex, shot and killed him last July and said
She had some bad
Thing wrong?
We really think that she did nothing wrong. She's had some bad judgment. She's married a few men that we didn't care for.
She'll be the first to say that
Yeah,
she's made a lot of mistakes and she's paid high prices for those mistakes.
So what is the scenario that Tylee and JJ are still alive?
Well, to us, we believe they are because we know Lori. And that's, we have seen
Well, that didn't age well, did it?
her dedication
Are they in a bunker somewhere? Are they with friends? Where do you think they are?
We don't know. We wish we knew. We don't know. But we also don't know what Lori has been through. She was being threatened. She was being followed.
Who was threatening her?
Well, Kay was threatening her.
See, so Lori told this huge tale about how Charles was after her and Kay was following her, and she needed to protect protect the kids, and especially JJ, from this evil grandmother of his. And it was all, and these people all believed it. And it's not like I'm saying these people shouldn't believe their family member, but they it's not, people should also look realistically at their family members and their involvement before they do an interview like this.
And her brothers. They're very upset about Charles's death. There was a lot of threats made to Lori.
Kay Woodcock is Charles Vallow's sister. She's been leading an effort to find the children and to pressure authorities to take action against Lori. Kay denies she threatened Lori, but Janice and Summer say that is the basis for why Lori moved to Idaho to produce them. Novels, which is
I've never
some sort of messiah.
I don't know Chad very well. I've only met him one time. I've never heard anything about him self-proclaiming to be a prophet or anything else of that nature, or trying to get people to follow him.
We can't see Lori blindly following anybody. Can you? No, I can't see it.
You don't think that Chad brainwashed her?
No, he couldn't do it. It's not possible.
These two say they think Lori really believes she is protecting her children, but they say they wish she would bring them forward.
It's been devastating not to see Tylee and JJ in such a long time. We love them so much. And it's been devastating not to see Lori.
Is there any part of the dark recesses of your minds that say maybe she cracked and maybe this is not going to end up well?
We have gone through those scenarios probably 100 times.
If something has happened to those children, it is not by her doing. And it's not by her permission.
She couldn't crack enough to do harm to her children.
Again, that didn't age well, did it? Gross, gross, gross. I agree. I think that's about it for that interview. Let me see. Yeah, that's it. So it was really interesting to go back and remind myself what these people said about Lori and Chad when the kids were still missing, and right after they were found and things like that. It's okay, you can swear, Mark. I wouldn't say that, Mark, about the best being the best live you've seen in a while. I mean, maybe you've seen, but I don't go live. I'm not really known for going live all the time. I've really just started going live more and more. So my channel isn't so much in the algorithm for going live, and so it doesn't bother me when I'm not getting huge numbers or even medium numbers. My channel really needs to get more into that live algorithm, and that's why I've started doing more weekly lives. I'm more known for my pre-recorded videos, and I still do those as well, but I'm just trying to have a little bit more of a regular live schedule. So, and also my channel isn't completely focused on, hey, that Michelle. I'm not completely focused on true crime. And what I've learned about YouTube in my, couple years being here is that the algorithm wants you to be kind of single topic or personality driven. So if you're going to be, yeah, I was watching that too. Aaron. I was watching that too, Aaron. Sorry, I keep messing that up. So what I've learned is that if your channel has a few different topics that you focus on, one is, I'm always going to be interested in true crime. So I'm always going to cover true crime, but I also have a lot of other things to say. You know, I'll talk about celebrities or, you know, high profile figures and when they screw up on media interviews, because that's my expertise. But what I'm trying to show on this channel is how social media has affected our culture. That's my main thing. And I'm trying to show it contextually by showing examples of things that happen in the world now that are heavily, heavily influenced by social media's algorithm and how it's changed our brains and changed our motivations and changed, you know, gotten so many of us addicted, and how we've lowered our standards for, I do cover a wide variety of things. How we've lowered our standards for human treatment of each other. That's why my channel is called Checkmate Humanity. It's a phrase that my former boss came up with when he was talking about how we're at a place in the world today where technology has surpassed our ability to adapt to it. It's tapping into our vulnerabilities, and it's changing us in such rapid and existential ways that it is checkmate on humanity. And things need to change really, really, really drastically in the social media culture for this to even have a chance of turning itself around. So my little contribution to that whole discussion is showing how we're already seeing the effects of that in what we're seeing on social media, and how, like, in true crime. And it really comes to light in true crime cases, because that's where we see the crime, and then we see how things played out leading up to the crime. And it's and in most cases, you can see the direct effect of social media on all of that. And so that's, that's really what my channel is about. And I've grown it completely organically. I haven't done any advertising or sub buying or view buying or anything like that. And I'm also very much against clickbait and just enraged to engage type of content, making you pissed off so that you'll stay here more. I want to deliver good quality, thoughtful content. And that's why I changed my banner to say deep thoughts on crime and culture, because I'm not going to just sit here and go, oh, this happened and blah, 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 blah. I'm going to give you my, in a cheeky way, deep thoughts on it. That's what you get here. And I'm just going to keep projecting. That's what you're going to get. And if someday my channel gets bigger as a result of that, that's great. But under the current conditions with the algorithm, my way of doing content isn't going to go viral. I mean, I have had a few videos go viral, but it doesn't sustain because I don't always do videos on that same exact topic. If I did only videos on Amber Heard, I would probably be a much bigger channel by now. But I'm not going to just stick to one topic just so that I could keep getting people artificially growing my channel. That's it. Thank you so much, Amelia. I really appreciate your support. That's a lot of my motivation for watching LawTube. I need to understand why so many are so gullible and so proud of it. I'm finally getting close to understanding why I need to understand that, at least. So here's a speech I give to people when we're in the conversation of why do people believe these people. So there's two speeches I always give, and people who talk to me a lot get sick of hearing me say this, but it's so true, and I want to drill it into people. One thing is don't forget the algorithm. Then the algorithm is grouping us into filter bubbles, and it's allowing people to only build their perspective based on what they already believe. not necessarily on getting different perspectives, but getting perspective on only what they believe. It's a confirmation bias. It's giving you only what you want to hear, basically. And the other is the other speech I give is anybody can be manipulated. Anybody can be lied to. So it's not shameful for somebody to it's not shameful for somebody to believe when people who don't have nefarious motivations and intentions don't walk around thinking, oh, they just lied to me. So they're a lot more inclined to believe what people say. And there are others who very much have nefarious nefarious intentions, and they will lie, and they'll lie through their teeth. And it's a lot easier to do that using social media. So anybody can be manipulated. The fact that, if you've gone to a magic show, even the Nobel Peace Prize winner or the, Einstein could have been manipulated into seeing not being able to, or believing the magic trick, believing what they're seeing is magic, but it's actually a trick. It's a trick that magicians have learned how to fool our brains, and that is what happens in a lot of these situations, is that people can start to just believe something that's completely wrong because they get confirmation bias from the algorithm, and anybody can be manipulated, and they need to almost open up a third eye of understanding that people out there is a type of person out there who is willing to manipulate and willing to do terrible things to people, and it's hard to get over that hump. Evolution has programmed us to seek out details that can help us avoid danger, but there's an efficiency factor that means at times we have to just go for the best option for now. Yep. A variety of topics is what keeps it interesting. You may get more viewers on one stream because of a certain topic, but I personally, yeah. I mean, I'm interested in so many different things and have so much to say about so many different things that I would find it boring to only talk about vulture culture and only talk about celebrity interviews and only talk about true crime. So that means, I guess, people are going to have to follow me because they like what I say and how I present things. And that's okay. That's going to be a much slower growth model than just, picking out the thing that's trending at the moment, like Idaho 4. Yep. And that's the other thing, is I want to attract people. I want to attract an audience who is willing to go into those deep thoughts, who will look at both sides of things. I don't need an audience who's just, unthinking. I want to be surrounded with people in my chat who will hear all sides and not take every opportunity to just drag other people through the mud and treat people like shit. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. So I appreciate everybody's support being here today. All 15 of you. I think it peaked at like 20. Woohoo! Hey, it's okay. It's okay. I really appreciate you all being here. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your evening. And I'm going to end this how I end a lot of videos on my channel. You never know what's going on in people's private lives. You absolutely have no idea. So please be kind online. There's no reason to add to their shitty day that they're already having, even if you don't like them. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Amelia. Have a wonderful evening. Bye.